Housing Authority and reconvene as the City Council. Last item on the agenda today. Clerk, please introduce item S502.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. Item S502 is the Municipal Code amendments to address concerns with sidewalk vending, commercial activity, and expressive activities on public property. If you'd like to speak to this item, please submit your speaker slip to the high lectern. If you are participating remotely, please press *9 or the raise your hand icon if you'd like to speak to this item. Thank you.
All right, we'll have staff introduce themselves for the record how much time they need, but first we'll go to Councilmember Campbell for an introduction.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce this item. Today we are presenting municipal code amendments to the sidewalk vending and expressive activities ordinance that was originally passed in March of 2022. We've heard from constituents, stakeholders, vendors themselves for the need to provide stronger enforcement. And these amendments aim to create an environment where permitted vendors can continue to thrive and provide valuable services to our residents. The amendments also create a balance between protecting constitutional rights like free speech and maintaining public order in our communities on the basis of public health and safety. Leading the presentation today will be our Chief of Staff, Venus Molina.
Proceed.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem LaCava and council members. This has been long overdue, and these are amendments, and I promise it's hot in here, and I promise I will be fast. So why are these amendments necessary? One of the things that we've heard from the public and stakeholders, we've heard about our rogue vendors, we've heard about people claiming First Amendment protections when they're not. So we wanted to make sure that the folks that are protected actually have First Amendment rights, and the folks that are not complying with the law actually have consequences. And so therefore, on May 17, 2022, the sidewalk vending ordinance was approved by the City Council, and the ordinance was established regulations and requirements for sidewalk vending throughout the city of San Diego. The enforcement started on June 22nd, 2022. However, in the past year, rogue unpermitted vendors have found ways to work around this ordinance. Therefore, we recognize the need to revisit and amend the San Diego Municipal Code to address the concerns with sidewalk vending and to accommodate expressive activities while ensuring proper enforcement. In October 2023, the framework for these Muni Code amendments were heard at the Community and Neighborhood Services Committee, and it was recommended that the District 2 staff work with the mayor and the city attorney to address these concerns and codify the amendments. Our primary goal of the proposed amendments is to strike a balance between protecting the First Amendment rights on the one hand and maintaining public safety, order, and accessibility on sidewalks, parks, and beaches on the other. We are introducing amendments that addresses activities protected by the First Amendment, sidewalk vending impounding procedures, and enforcement mechanisms, as well as some necessary cleanup language. The definition of pure speech. So the fullest extent of First Amendment protections apply to what courts consider pure speech. And as we've heard from the buskers and the artist community, we want to ensure that everybody knows that these are the folks that are protected. Pure speech includes speaking on a street corner or in a park about a political, ideological, or religious topic, distributing brochures, art sales and art creation, including paintings, caricatures, balloon animals, sculpture, and other visual arts sold by the artist, distribution or sale of books, music, paintings, photographs, sculpture, or CDs or recordings created by the person selling the items, street performances, busking, face paintings, or henna tattoos. Examples of activities that are not considered pure speech include sale of handcrafts like jewelry and pottery, sales of personal care products including makeup, lotion, perfume, incense, and incense burners, sale of mass-produced items including clothing and hats, food sales, teaching exercise, yoga, or dog training classes. The rules would apply to anyone engaged in protected First Amendment speech on city property. The proposed regulations would include a space limit similar to the 24 square foot limit applicable to sidewalk vendors. Proposed regulations would prohibit using or attaching equipment to city property, including city utilities, and could include provisions to ensure sidewalks and walkways are passable and safe for all people to use. Proposed regulations addresses the use of amplification, umbrellas, shade structures, and other equipment. These are the table of applicable limits and time of day. The sound level from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 65 decibels. Sound level limit from 7:01 p.m. to 6:59 a.m. is 55 decibels. And just for context, a very quiet living room is at 40 decibels. The designated areas within parks, plazas, and other high-traffic areas. The proposed regulations would also allow the city to identify certain speech locations in designated areas within parks, plazas, and other high-traffic areas where there's a need to set up specific rules within the First Amendment framework for those areas. If the city established speech areas in a specific park, the proposed regulations would require speakers to use those areas only and would be available on a first-come, first-served basis. First Amendment areas would be limited to expressive activity and could not be used for sidewalk vending or non-speech activities. Expressive activity regulations would apply to performers, buskers, First Amendment vendors, protestors, and any other speakers engaged in protected speech. Anyone who is not engaged in protected speech activities but is selling items on public property is a sidewalk vendor and must comply with the SVO. Now, for our rogue vendors and people that are not following the sidewalk vending ordinance, we need stronger impounding procedures. The need for impounding procedures and increased enforcement measure arises from the challenges posed by rogue vendors who often disregard existing regulations and operate in a manner that disrupts public order and safety. These individuals have engaged in activities that obstruct sidewalks and create unsanitary conditions. Impounding provides a vital tool to swiftly address such issues by temporarily removing uncompliant vendors, equipment, or goods. These measures aim to strike a fair balance between safeguarding the rights of legitimate vendors and maintaining the integrity of our public spaces. Currently, the sidewalk vending ordinance requires progressive enforcement as set forth by SB 946. Violations associated with any part of the ordinance have been subject to the escalating fines as set forth in the table below. Violations, and this is within the first year with a permit. The first violation is a written administrative warning and referral. The second, $200. Third, $500. And fourth, $500 and/or impoundment. The proposed amendments would remove the initial warning and replace it with a $100 fine for permitted vendors and a $250 fine for unpermitted vendors. We are proposing the adoption of the impounding mechanism currently employed by the City of Orange that would allow immediate impound of a vendor's equipment or goods if the vendor poses certain public health and safety concerns, including vending food without a valid health permit. And here is a sample of the notice of impoundment from the City of Orange. The city may impound vending equipment and any goods therein for any of the following reasons. And again, these are vendors that are usually rogue vendors that are not following the law. And some of these reasons are leaving vending equipment or goods unattended, vending without a valid vending permit, vending food without a valid and displayed San Diego County Environmental Health Permit, vending in violation of this division and the sidewalk vendor refuses or fails to provide identification upon request by a city official, and vending in a manner that creates an imminent and substantial danger or an environmental hazard to the health, safety, or general welfare of the public or the property at the location of the vending equipment. Who will be enforcing the proposed amendments? Enforcement will be conducted primarily by the San Diego Police Department, in addition to the City of San Diego's park rangers, on a proactive and responsive basis in areas of high concern or public health, safety, and welfare. We have additional changes, and these proposed amendments include other changes that include reconcile existing code sections with state law and the SVO, repeal the prohibitions on fortune telling and similar activities protected by the First Amendment, and incorporate a definition of parks into the SVO that was adopted by the City Council in 2023. And staff recommendation is to adopt an ordinance amending the municipal code related to sidewalk vending and expressive activities on public property. I'm open for questions.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Campbell and Ms. Molina for the presentation. Clerk, please proceed with public comment.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. We have quite an amount of speakers here. It will be 1 minute per person, starting with Larry Webb. Larry, you have time ceded to you by Sarah Matheson. Sarah, if you can please raise your hand. Andrew? Thank you. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you, council members. I'm Larry Webb, BP of the Mission Beach Town Council, Coastal Coalition member speaking on behalf of the board of the Mission Beach Town Council. We appreciate that the proposed changes address with much more clarity what compromises expressive activity and appears to increase the ability for the city to better enforce existing vendor rules. After meetings between council offices, the mayor's office, Chief Parker and Drew Ruiz, the Coastal Coalition, and other beach area community leaders, an agreement, or we thought an agreement was reached as to the number and the location of designated expressive activity zones in the beach communities. It was agreed that Ocean Beach would have 2, Mission Beach would have 3, Pacific Beach would have 2, and La Jolla would have 3. The proposed changes to the ordinance only state the city manager may designate expressive activity zones. It does not require it, and it does not state the number of zones or location in the beach communities would be laid out, as been agreed to by our community leaders. Without the ordinance reading, the city manager shall designate expressive activity zones in the coastal communities, and listing at least the number of zones, the board of the Mission Beach Town Council and the Coastal Coalition cannot support the proposed changes with the ordinance. Without these changes, the city does not have to create the zones and can expand the number of zones without any community input. This could negatively impact each coastal community, emergency services, and all who visit the beaches. The proposed changes allow for amplified music in the coastal parks and beaches. Using the decibel control can work in a place like Balboa Park. It does not work in the coastal parks and beaches. There simply isn't any enforcement there. Don't destroy a good day at the beach by allowing loud, amplified.
Thank you for that concluding comment. Next is Michael Guinan.
Hey guys, I'm canceling my Netflix membership. I'm gonna come here every week. This is great. Okay, I'm only here to talk about the hot dog vendors, and I'm here by accident, okay? This is not my thing. In August, I was questioning a child who was cooking hot dogs after midnight on a Saturday on 5th and G. As I'm speaking with him, a handler came out and became very belligerent. The next thing I know, I'm being thrown into active traffic on G Street. I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, I'm not getting killed over a hot dog. The following week, same thing. There were 16, 18 vendors just in the corner of 5th and G. There were 24 police officers or more on bicycles under Ghirardelli marquee. What's going on? I said, are we allowed to enforce these? We've been told we're not allowed to enforce this ordinance. Oh, and thank you, Dr. Campbell, for all your hard work. People are literally sitting under no vending signs cooking hot dogs. So here's what I'm here to tell you. After 7 months, I don't care. After 7, we've got 4 people hitting redial on these things. After 7 months of research.
Your time is concluded. Do you have somebody that can cede you time? Thank you.
Thank you.
Please continue.
After 7 months of research, a lot of research, here's what I found. This is a human trafficking issue. Human trafficking was discussed at length by our district attorney in January. These people are trafficked in, they're paying off debt, they get between 20 and 30% of what they're putting in. This is not a mom trying to support her children. These are coming in, organized crime. I walked down from L Street to Broadway on a Friday and Saturday between 4th, 5th, and 6th Avenue. I counted between 50 and 90 hot dog carts lined up like railroad cars in front of other people's businesses. No sanitation, even smoking cigarettes, handling bacon with their hands. It's disgusting. So these people have to go. This is not mom and pop trying to take care of their kids. This is organized crime. It doesn't take a lot of research to figure this out. So that's it. I got a lot more I could say, but it's about human trafficking, tax evasion, business licenses, labor laws, health code, ATF, ICE.
Thank you for that
Guys, have a good day.
comment.
See you next week.
Catherine Douglas. After that, it'll be Alonso Vivas, Dominic Lemandry, and then John Kokoza. If you can start making your way up to the front row. Please proceed.
Catherine Douglas. The original sidewalk vending ordinance had major flaws, creating alarming unintended consequences in our coastal zone. We have seen chaos, costly damage to the infrastructure of our shoreline parks, and have seen the rights of the general public stripped away. There are still some loopholes. A lot of things have been cleared up, but there's still some loopholes. Specifically, the ordinance needs to identify the specific number of expressive activity spots selected by Chief Ruiz and community members in LJPB, MB, and OB. Prohibit amplification in shorelines parks to prevent negative impact on visitors, residents, hotel guests, and businesses. Despite community input for the last 2 years, we've not arrived at something perfect yet. Until the above-mentioned changes are incorporated in the ordinance, I can't support this and ask you to vote no, unless one of the council members might be willing to put forward some amendments. Thank you.
Thank you for that concluding remark. Next is Alonso Vivas. You'll have 1 minute.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Alonso Vivas, speaking on behalf of the Downtown San Diego Partnership Clean and Safe Program, here to express our support for the amendments for the sidewalk vending ordinance. The partnership is deeply committed to fostering the economic prosperity and cultural vibrancy of city's downtown area. Unauthorized sidewalk vendors burden our Clean and Safe program workload, fielding complaints away from businesses and pedestrians. They leave food waste, trash, residue, and hindering our work and impacting safety. We kindly request the team to continue to monitor the presence of organized businesses farming out labor to poor wages and unsafe working conditions. Thank you, Councilmember Campbell and Venus, for taking the lead on this issue and listening to community feedback. We urge you to approve the amendments. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Dominic Lemandry.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Dominic Lemandry. I'm the district manager for the East Village Business Improvement District. We are a business improvement district of approximately 700 businesses located in the East Village portion of downtown San Diego. And I'm here today to voice my support, as long as our board of directors support for these proposed amendments. Back in 2022, when the sidewalk vending ordinance was originally taken up by this council, the conditions in downtown were quite dire and volatile, and I believe that's what inspired this sidewalk vending ordinance. Unfortunately, we haven't seen quite the resolution that we anticipated with the first passage of the ordinance. The conditions downtown are still very volatile, and we're starting to see increasingly disconcerting elements of lack of ADA accessibility, lack of proper hygiene or health codes adherence, and we just see, just drastic competition amongst these rogue vendors for the real estate in downtown. So that's why I'm here today to voice my support for these amendments and also
Thank you. Your time has concluded.
voice my gratitude to Councilmember Campbell as well as you, Venus. Thank you.
Thank you for that concluding remark. John Kokoza.
How's it going? I'm John Kokoza, 25-year resident of Pacific Beach, and I'm an artist that was vending on the boardwalk. I get where a lot of this is coming from. I spent a year on the boardwalk selling up there, and I understand there is violence between these rogue vendors. People are selling drugs. I watched rogue vendors encourage the homeless people and the drug addicts to come do drugs in their tent. I don't want that there. I just want to be able to sell my artwork. And when I'm speaking on behalf of the artists that are actually going out there, the people who are painting, the people who are doing photography like me, I just want to make sure that in all this process, we don't get steamrolled over. I'd like to still be able to set up on the Pacific Beach Boardwalk because I was encouraged by one of the business owners there. Because he said to me, I'd rather have you selling in front of my business than have my entire easement covered in transients doing drugs. So what I noticed was the people who are actually out there selling, we go out there, we clean the boardwalk, we're trying to help you guys, but don't forget about us in the long run.
So,
Thank you. Next is Pedro Soto, and if I can have the following individuals in the front row: Roberto Tinajero, Leti Soto, Michael James, and Peter Soto Jr. If you can please start coming up to the front row. You'll have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Hi, everybody. My name is Pete Soto. I'm the owner of Brooklyn Dogs here in the plaza. I'm here to support this change in the ordinance because we've had plenty of encounters with these illegal vendors. They've destroyed the plaza, they destroyed my business. Ever since they come around, we've lost one small business every month since October. That's a lot of business going out of business, and we're on the same boat. We're losing a lot of sales because we can't compete with 30 carts at one time. It's not fair to us that we follow all the rules and they get to come and not follow all the rules. They have no repercussion. So they do it. That's why they keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Roberto.
Hi, I'm a Balboa Park street performer. Street performing for me means freedom. It means freedom for me to perform and freedom for communities to come in and watch my show, whether you're rich or homeless. Everybody can watch my show. And we're making great progress, and I want to thank all the council members that have been on our sides. We've been fighting long and hard. Last year, we were treated like criminals. The Rangers seem to have an agenda to get rid of street performing as a way to make the parks cleaner and safer. And that's not something we want, and it's great that we're making progress. And we should definitely protect street performers. And we should also hold the Balboa Park Rangers accountable. They give us thousands of dollars in citations and stress this out. So are we going to be compensated for that? I had a friend who had to pay a $650 fine for just drawing caricatures. So when are we going to be compensated for all that damage?
Thank you for that concluding remark. Next is Leti Soto. After that, Michael James, Peter Soto, Freddie Palms, and then Michael Tremblay.
Good afternoon, City Council. Respectfully, I come before you with this final emotional plea to implore and pass the amendments presented from Venus and Dr. Campbell's office. We have all been waiting patiently for many years for Mayor Gloria, President Council Elo Rivera, and Council Member Stephen Whitburn to step up, but nothing has happened. Mayor Gloria has nothing to say to us. Now he's canceled us. He's done nothing but deceive us, pathologically lying to us like a weasel. I mean, we are going to lose our businesses. We have had enough of excuse after excuse. These amendments need to pass, and they need to pass today. These rogue vendors have not stopped coming to the plaza. They are going everywhere. They're at the beaches. They're at the parks. It has not stopped. We're just asking for you guys to step up, pass these amendments today, please.
Thank you for your comments. Your time has concluded. Next is Michael James. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Peter Soto Jr.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Peter Soto. I'm the son of both my wonderful parents in this company. Lots been going on since you guys have passed this, and it's kind of ridiculous that I have to come up here, but here we are. I grew up in the San Diego area, and I grew up here with this family, mom and pop, true mom and pop business. I now am not afraid to come down here, because when that sun goes down, you don't understand the violent, most crucial and illegal vending things that both go hand in hand. My parents will sacrifice a lot to support me in going to college, which I now don't attend because I cannot afford it. Because of everyone's statements, and it's not just one, it's everyone in a group, no action has been done. You guys say that we're safe, there's nothing to be afraid of, but there's a lot to be afraid of. I really do hope that you guys can listen to this and listen to everyone who has thankfully taken the time out of their day to come here and listen and do some action.
Thank you for that. Freddie Palms. And then after that, Michael Tremblay. If you can please start coming up to the front row.
Good afternoon, everybody. here as a representative of many businesses in downtown. I started a business 7 months ago. It was good, no problems, until the street vendors came. Now, this morning I have a health department inspection. Everything is good. Still, I have some plumbing problems I need to pay for. Before coming here, I pay for my parking tickets. So I'm following the rules. But unfortunately, on weekends, the street vendors that I am surrounded by, maybe about 20 in each corner, 5. I am in between F and G. I can't make any business. It's very difficult. And I think that it's very unfair and very disappointing. And that's the feeling that is mine and all my neighbors too. Thank you for working on solving this problem. I was here sitting for 3 hours. I know that you have big problems, housing problems, and I don't want to be one of them more.
Thank you for that concluding remark. Final speaker here in chambers, Michael Tremblay.
Esteemed council members, my name is Michael Trimble. I'm the executive director of the Gaslamp Quarter Association, representing 400 small businesses. The GQA urgently endorses the proposed amendments to the City of San Diego's vending ordinance and seeks your immediate support for enforcement. Since 2019, rogue vendors have disregarded the no vending designation, posed severe and health safety risks. Urgent and robust enforcement is critical for the Gaslamp Quarter designated as a no vending zone. These vendors exploit the lack of enforcement, jeopardizing patrons' and the well-being of law-abiding establishments. Last spring and summer alone, the Gaslamp Quarter experienced an alarming surge of 50 to 80 vendors nightly. I express my gratitude to Dr. Jennifer Campbell and Chief of Staff Venus Molina for prioritizing health and safety. No vending precisely means that. No vending, period. Clear rules, consequences, and empowering law enforcement are vital to preserve the Gaslamp Quarter's safety. Thank you.
Thank you for that concluding remark. I'm starting the 5-minute timer here in chambers. We're going to those participating remotely. You do have 1 minute each, starting with Ethan. If you can please unmute.
Hello, City Council. My name is Ethan Olson, and I serve as the Assistant District Manager of the East Village Association, or EVA, representing East Village businesses spanning from Petco Park up to City College. The East Village Association stands in firm support of the amendment to the sidewalk vending ordinance in our city. We are gravely concerned about the surge of the illegal sidewalk vending, which poses significant hazards and risks to our community. Illegal sidewalk vending not only presents hazardous conditions, but also raises serious sanitary concerns. Vendors operate often illegally and fail to obtain proper hand washing and sanitizing equipment, jeopardizing the health and safety of our residents and visitors alike. The safety hazards associated with open flames and spilled oil and grease on our sidewalks cannot be overlooked. These dangers do not only undermine the well-being of our community, but also pose a threat to our public safety. Therefore, we urge council to take decisive action in addressing this issue by amending the sidewalk vending ordinance to allow for more aggressive enforcement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Quiet on Our Streets Coalition. If you can please unmute. A pop-up should have come up. I cannot unmute for you. Quiet Our Streets Coalition. I will come back to you. Bob Evans, if you can please unmute.
Good afternoon. I'm Bob Evans, and I'm president of La Jolla Parks and Beaches, and I represent some other local community groups too. You know, this ordinance, as presented, provides actual little support for our shoreline parks and beaches. These are world-class destinations of ecological and environmental significance. It's for recreational use, you know, a connection to nature, and away from the urban. They're a place of leisure for everyone to enjoy. This city needs to prohibit all types of commercial activity in these beach and park areas, including this expressive vending that is before us. These areas absolutely don't need the street fair and swap meet character that this ordinance continues to allow and support. You know, the National Park Service doesn't allow this kind of expressive vending in its 400 plus natural and historic parks, nor does the state of California. And the greatest urban park, New York City Central Park, prohibits First Amendment vending. This prohibiting is necessary to prevent the proliferation of commercial activity that is inconsistent with shoreline
Your
park
time has
uses as resource.
concluded. If you have additional comments, you can email them in to cityclerk@sandiego.gov. It is a minute, so please be sure to be mindful of your time for all the other speakers coming forward. Chris Duggan, if you can please unmute.
Good afternoon, Council President Hilo Rivera and members of the council. Chris Duggan with the California Restaurant Association. On behalf of the CRA San Diego County chapter, I would like to register our full support for the sidewalk vending amendments before you today. I want to thank Councilmember Campbell and her entire staff for the time they've spent with all stakeholders over the past 4 years. While CRA firmly believes street vending is part of San Diego's growing food culture, we do feel that there are issues remaining. As staff noted in the presentation, since the ordinance was originally passed, there have been dozens of unauthorized sidewalk vendors blatantly violating the rules and regulations. CRA believes the amendments before you today will not only assist the licensed sidewalk vendors that are abiding by the rules, but will help the public by protecting the health and safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 8813. If you can please unmute. 8813, if you can please unmute. Thank you. We do not hear you here in chambers. I'm not sure if the device that you're speaking into may be muted.
Yes. Consuelo. We are the second most inflated county in the country. Our county residents pay the most for electricity in the world. In the past, you didn't have to ask permission from the government to go fishing, own a property, start a business, renovate your home, build a home, use a vehicle, get married, hunt, own a weapon, sell a product, grow food on your own property, set up a lemonade stand, sell food. You can do virtually nothing without being extorted by government and obtaining their permissions first. If you believe that you're still free, you're deluding yourselves. Reality, you live in a tax farm as free-range humans. Government loves this, divide and conquer. How about get to the source of why these people become drug addicts in the first place? They too have lost things in their past, possibly even including their businesses. So cancel your freaking Netflix, get involved, government's a racket. They're the freaking mafia. Wake up, slaves. Pay attention, not only when it involves you.
Your time has concluded. The 5-minute timer has also concluded. There are 6 people left in the queue. No additional speakers will be taken after that. Let's go back to Quiet Our Streets Coalition. Are you able to unmute? You should have a pop-up come up. We will come back to you. Next is phone number ending in 3581. If you can please unmute. *6. 3, there you go.
Hello. Good afternoon, Council President Pro Tem, as well as members of the council. My name is Fred Takeo, and on behalf of the San Diego County Lodging Association, we urge your support for item S502. Illegal sidewalk vending continues to present challenges in areas that are often frequented by visitors. The item before you today adds an additional clarification to lessen public safety challenges in areas where bottlenecking forces pedestrians to walk around bulky and sometimes flammable equipment. Additionally, today's item ensures that food vendors obtain a valid health permit, that vendors are not playing amplified music at inappropriate volumes, and closes the loophole that vendors exploit under the guise of free speech. We would like to thank Councilmember Campbell and her staff for bringing this item forward and urge your support. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Patricia Mondragon. If you can please mute.
Patricia Mondragon, Regional Policy Manager for Alliance San Diego. Sidewalk vendors are expressly protected by California state law SB 946. 2 years ago, advocates emphasized the need to remove financial barriers and hardships for sidewalk vending micro entrepreneurs. We specifically warned against harmful enforcement mechanisms, against impoundments, and against using police officers to enforce an administrative non-criminal ordinance. We recommended business-friendly approaches that both honor SB 946 and protect vendors' rights to conduct a lawful and much-loved business model. Now the proponents of this ordinance are back. to remove the small gains for sidewalk vending entrepreneurs due to some unsubstantiated concern over rogue unpermitted vendors. The amendment to impound property goes further than the administrative fines allowed in SB 946, which prohibits any additional fines, assessments, or financial conditions. You will not find the word impound or confiscate anywhere allowed in the fines in SB 946.
Your time has concluded. If you have additional comments, you can email them in. Diana Pitts, if you can please unmute.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Diana Pitts, Vice President of Public Affairs for the San Diego Padres. Over the last several years, we've consistently voiced our concerns about the hazardous conditions caused by certain vendors in the ballpark district. We've experienced multiple incidents involving explosions and fires sparked by rogue vendors, hot grease spills, and fights among vendors, all of which present significant threats to public safety. These incidents not only endanger our fans, but also place a significant burden on our employees. Additionally, the aggressive behavior exhibited by some vendors towards our employees and city code enforcement officers underscores the need for PD to have the ability to intervene and enforce the ordinance. We believe that this proposal offers a practical compromise. With our 2024 season home opener just a few weeks away, it's imperative to us that the city make meaningful progress on this issue as soon as possible. We respectfully request your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Marcela Terran. If you can please unmute. Marcela, if you can please unmute. A pop-up should have shown up. I'll come back to you. Our next speaker is the original. If you can please unmute.
I'd like to give this propaganda update a warm handoff. Can't believe you guys are actually giving an update on the other things that was way more important than this. But it's so funny to hear you talk about rogue vendors and like what, is like legal First Amendment exercise and whatnot. Like you guys are the arbiters of all of that kind of stuff. You act like you have the authority to take someone's rights and be like, we're going to dilly these out to you if you get a permit from us. And then you know what? You're not doing it illegally. And all these people that are like, please pass this. It's like, you're only saying that because you don't feel the boot on your face. You don't feel the gun to your temple, but you should. Because it's like, you just think that, well, we need to make money and screw these other people. I mean, I can't believe they want to make money and they're going to take away from us. What do you think you're doing to them? The road goes both ways. And it's like all these people are so hypocritical by coming in and being like, we deserve this over other people. That's why people say you should die over someone else. It's total bullshit. It's all propaganda and it needs to go.
Your time has concluded. Our last speaker, Marcela Terran, if you can please unmute. Give you a few seconds to, there you go.
Got it?
There you go. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am in favor of an amendment. However, the present amendment or proposed amendment doesn't include pure speech areas and the firm numbers of pure speech areas in specific locations within each coastal community. Following many hours communicating with community leaders, park and rec chiefs, expressive areas were selected for each coastal community. These areas were chosen for the greater good of residents, tourists living and visiting the beaches. Amplification is also another thing that I cannot support, nor can many people in the coastal communities of Pacific Beach. It doesn't allow for proper enforcement. Police are overstaffed. They can't address these lower problems, these lower priority calls. And amplification takes away from the natural setting that we need to preserve.
Thank you for that concluding remark. That does conclude public comment on item S502.
All right. Thank you, everybody that spoke or called in. We'll take council member questions, comments, and a motion, and we'll start with council member Campbell.
Thank you so much. Thank you to my chief, Venus Molina, for the presentation and for all your hard work on this. Also, a big thank you to all the city departments involved in this process and to the public for their feedback. And I want to especially say thank you to our San Diego Police Department and our park rangers for stepping up to provide enforcement for this ordinance. And that's what it takes for any ordinance, any law. We have these wonderful people to protect us and to help uphold the law. So thank you very much. In the past year, after hearing from constituent stakeholders and vendors alike, it became clear that we needed to revisit this ordinance and address certain issues. And indeed, when we made this ordinance, we specifically asked for updates to be possible at least every year, and here we are making updates because we found them necessary. The municipal code amendment to the street vending ordinance presented today will give city enforcement teams the tools they need to effectively enforce the law and ensure the health and safety of our public spaces. And remember that parks, beaches, boardwalks are in the moratorium period. From Memorial Day to Labor Day, there is no vending in those areas. It will also, this amendment will also clarify and ensure vendors that they can be successful in their endeavors when they comply with the law, which hundreds of vendors in our city have successfully done, and God bless them. They got all the permits and licenses that were necessary, and they're working legally within the rules and being successful. We want to help to make their lives a little bit easier so that these rogues are not trying to beat them up and take them over. Our goal today is to strike a balance between protecting First Amendment rights and ensuring that our city sidewalks, parks, and beaches are safe and acceptable for everyone to enjoy. So we want to make sure that our buskers and our artistic people understand that they have a right to be there and to do their entertainment. And with that, I will make the motion to adopt the amendments to the municipal code related to sidewalk vending and expressive activities on public property. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. So we have a motion. I'm going to take the liberty of jumping in next. I too want to thank Councilmember Campbell and Ms. Molina for the work. You did a heavy lift in bringing the original ordinance before us, and you've done, once again, another heavy lift in bringing these amendments, taking into account the things that weren't working, the ambiguities, walking that fine line between competing interests, and crafting amendments that really can set us on the stage for success and give us, our police and our park rangers, the tools they need. So we did hear some questions from the public. So to get some clarification on those questions, one, why does the ordinance not codify the number and location of the expressive activity zones?
Thank you for asking that, Council President Pro Tem LaCava. We actually had many years and many meetings with our community stakeholders to designate certain areas. We felt that including the expressive activity areas in the ordinance would actually create more of a burden, and it would really tie our hands for any kind of changes. So if we were to designate activity areas now, if we would like to make any changes to those areas, we would have to come back to council, open up the ordinance, and open up and make those changes to the areas. By providing that opportunity to the mayor and the Park and Rec staff, then we can actually make this more into a administrative process. And I would love to ask the mayor's office if they would continue to work with the community and our office, and obviously your office as well, and community stakeholders to decide and designate those activities outside of the ordinance.
All right, thank you. Does the mayor's office want to?
Yes, Council President Pro Tem, we'd be more than happy to take on that effort in conjunction with feedback from our park rangers, the police department, members of the community, and other stakeholder groups to identify the right locations for these zones. And if we need to move them in the future, being able to adequately notice that and work with the community in order to do so.
All right, I'm pretty sure district.
Just
Go ahead.
so that I'm clear, a lot of the times the areas might have to change because the parks might change, the different artistic opportunities and activities might change. So we want to make sure that we have that flexibility.
All right. Well, I'm sure District 2, District 1, and I think maybe even District 3 are going to keep a pretty sharp eye on some of those conversations. I think we've got a nice hard line sitting in our office about what was agreed to by the community. The other and last question is the enforcement of decibel levels. Is that practical in our shoreline parks and beaches?
So as of right now, the numbers that were provided are just for parks and beaches. And so obviously the noise decibels vary throughout the city, and they all fall under the noise ordinance for the entire city of San Diego.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So again, I do want to thank my colleague, Councilmember Campbell, Ms. Molina, Chief Ruiz, and the Parks and Rec Department, Matt, Coda, and Stephen, and the Mayor's Office for your work on this, the City Attorney's Office work on this. I know this was a long slog to get these just right and make sure it was all inclusive. I know that you have worked with city stakeholders as well as coastal community for months, held special outreach and input meetings, and made changes based on their feedback. I want to thank the coastal community stakeholders and leaders, the Marcellas, Bothwell, and Tarrant, Catherine, Janie, Bob, Larry, and others. And I want to thank the residents and patrons of our parks and beaches for your patience, often strained at time, but your patience while this got back to the finish line. It was better for us to take a little bit more time and get it right than to rush it through and have to change again. For those who don't recall, in 2022, when the ordinance was originally passed, I think for about a month or two, it was actually working pretty well as promised. We created the space for small business to operate legally. Safety was restored to our sidewalks, boardwalks, and parks. And then a few folks figured out how to manipulate the ordinance, vend under the pretext of freedom of speech, overtaking public spaces, creating public hazards, and forcing us back to the table. Well documented, I might add. Freedom of speech, of course, is a First Amendment right. Sidewalk vending is legal under SB 946. We have to strike a balance between the two. This ordinance allows for vending and protects freedom of speech while preserving public safety, order, and accessibility. And I'll close by noting for those lovable ice cream truck operators who park in our blue zones, our first responder areas, our red curbs, and short-term parking zones, if you don't regulate yourself, we'll have to come back and deal with those as well. I know that's a continuing frustration in the parks and beaches areas. And with that, I'm happy to second the motion. Again, thank you, Councilmember Campbell and Ms. Molina, for the very heavy lift in getting this done. And with that, we will now go to Councilmember Whitburn.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. I too want to thank Councilmember Campbell and her team, including Ms. Molina, for bringing this item forward. Thank you to those who came to council and waited 3 hours to speak on this item. I appreciate your patience and hearing from you. We have seen particular challenges in enforcing the sidewalk vending ordinance downtown, with some vendors disregarding regulations and obstructing sidewalks and creating unsanitary conditions. I think we heard some of that during public comment this afternoon. My office has also heard from Buskers in Balboa Park regarding this issue. And I appreciate your office, Councilmember Campbell, communicating with the Buskers as you drafted these amendments. Entrepreneurship and protecting First Amendment rights are obviously important. At the same time, we also need to ensure that we're maintaining public safety and order and accessibility on our sidewalks and parks and beaches as well. I feel that these amendments strike the right balance, and I am pleased to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. We'll now go to Council Member Von Wilpert.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem, and I just want to say thank you so much to Dr. Jen and your team and to Venus Molina for the incredibly hard work you've done on this. And, you know, threading the needle with the First Amendment is not easy. In law school, their entire course is on the First Amendment. And so I just want to, and to the city attorney who's worked on this as well, I just want to say thank you for all the work you've done. And thank you to the mayor's office too. I know it's not an easy issue. We have a lot of interest to balance, but I do enjoy you know, making sure that everyone has their right to free speech, as well as protecting public health and safety and business owners who are abiding by the rules and really do need the city to help them. So thank you, and I'll be supporting the motion.
All right, thank you, Council Member. We'll go to Council Member Campillo.
Thank you, Pro Tem LaCava. Thank you very much, Councilmember Campbell and Ms. Molina, for your good work in putting together the regulations here, both in the initial and now in this updated version. I want to give appreciation to the members of the public who showed up and who called and who've had to try to single-handedly defend themselves and their businesses from folks who are taking advantage of loopholes and also, or oftentimes, completely disregarding the law. I appreciate the Soto family for being here and for being good partners with the city, long time in the Civics Center area. Like most things, if there isn't consistent enforcement, and if there isn't a meaningful consequence to breaking the law, people will just continue to break it. So really looking to the mayor's office and the departments to implement this and make sure people are held accountable. I know that they're going to put every effort into doing that, and to make sure that we protect those who are following the laws, who are getting the permits, who are doing valid commercial activity, and for those who are doing the expressive activities that are protected under the First Amendment. Look forward to continuing to enjoy those arts and culture aspect of our city in the appropriate spots. So thank you very much again, Councilmember Campbell. I will be supportive.
All right, thank you. So we do have a motion by Councilmember Campbell, a second by myself to move the staff recommendation. Clerk, please call the roll.
I've started the voting center. Please cast your vote. Council President Pro Tem LaCava, may I have your vote for the record?
Vote yes.
Thank you so much. That does pass unanimously, 6-0, with Council President Elo Rivera absent, Councilmember Moreno absent, and Council District 4 vacant. Thank you.
All right, thank you everybody for showing up and staying through a long meeting. That comes to the end of our agenda. We will now adjourn council to the next regularly scheduled council meeting on Monday, February 26, 2020.